building responsive UIs with auto layout in iOS. There are many web developers, so they might be already aware of how important the responsiveness is in website. Meaning, if you develop a particular website, it should be responsible in all screen sizes like desktop, big desktop, laptop, then tab, and mobile also. So similarly, in mobile development also, we have something called as auto layout for responsiveness of the mobile app. So a responsive UI is nothing but the UI which adapts to all screen sizes, orientation, and devices, and ensures consistent and optimal user experience. The importance of responsiveness in iOS is obviously diverse devices. iOS has multiple screen sizes, and iPads. Also, in iPads, there are multiple screen sizes. So a particular app should work in all these devices for all the different screen sizes. User expectation. Expects transition in different devices. Maybe in the future, if new devices also come, that time your app should be ready for being responsive, or the screen should adapt to the new screen size also. Then even in it is also good for easy approval in App Store. If your app is designed as per the iOS guidelines, and it has a proper responsiveness, then it becomes easy for approval from App Store. Challenges of design. Layout flexibility. As I said, all the elements, for say example, a view or a button, or for that matter, image or anything. A particular element should be responsive and should fit into the app screen for any given screen size. Adapting content. The content of the app, maybe the text or any other given element, also should fit into all screen sizes. And screen size should be consistent for all the devices. So auto layout is nothing but it is like a relationship between constraints of the element and the screen size. We have to give different constraints for the element to place in a particular position, so that it is aligned properly. Auto layout adjusts elements for varying screens and orientations. Orientation here means we also, as a developer, should consider not only different devices but also the orientations like portrait and landscape mode of the mobile app. When we use auto layout, it makes sure that the app maintains consistency over the different devices, across all the devices. If we don't use auto layout, then what a developer will have to do is manually go through all the constraints for all screen sizes and set the different like width, height, and other constraints. But in auto layout, it is not like that. It automatically it reduces the manual adjustment for different screen sizes. So benefits here are flexibility, efficiency, and consistency. How auto layout works? As I previously said, there are constraints in auto layouts. Constraints are nothing but width, height, x and y position of a particular element. It defines the relationship between the UI and the elements. Dynamic adjustment. In auto layout, the element automatically adjusts to its position in the device screen size. Comprehensive control. Constraints manage everything from element positioning, sizing, alignment, and ensuring cohesive and adaptable UI designs. If you use auto layout while developing mobile apps, then we do not have to manually set all these constraints for all the screen sizes. It controls automatically. Anatomy of constraints. The constraints like leading and trailing constraints. Leading means the constraint which is on the left side of the element, and trailing constraints is the one which is on the right side of the element. It allows you developer to set constraints according to the front and back side of the element. Top and bottom constraints are which are definitely aligns the element from top and bottom of the screen. Width and height constraints, which specifies the size of the, and instinct constraints are something for the content size, like for image, it is used for images and also for text, so that the text and image is adjusted according to the screen size. Rating constraints. So in iOS, we use Xcode, and in Xcode we have interface builder. In interface builder, we are allowed to drag and drop a UI, and virtually only we can set the all the constraints for a particular element. Uh, for example, there are options when we click on a particular element in the interface builder, we get options for giving it width, height, and all other constraints. Also, we are allowed to edge pin just like in any other editor. We get to pinch and drag and drop to resize the element. Same way in Xcode also we are allowed to do so. And automatically in the interface builder, accordingly the constraints will be changed. Aspect ratio. Aspect ratio is very important when it comes to image. It happens many times if we do not set a proper aspect ratio for image, then it will definitely break in different UI sizes. So here there is also constraint for aspect ratio. Multiplier property. In constraint, we are allowed to give a particular element its constraints depending on the different other elements in the UI. For example, a button can be placed in the screen according to the other element, maybe a view controller, maybe a view which is already present in the UI, so that you don't have to specifically set a width, height, or XY position. Picture of Xcode where of interface builder, where we can edit a element and give it different constraints. Here we can see the different constraints which are given to this particular image, and in this is in portrait mode, and this is in landscape mode. So this will handle both the scenarios. Even if in the portrait mode, in the landscape mode, it will not break or the image will not get disaligned. This is the example where I have not given this is also the example where I have given constraints, but at the top only I have given 10 as a constraint. So in landscape mode, you can see it has correctly aligned the UI image element exactly at the top 10 constraints. If, for example, if I have not given any leading or trailing constraint, then it would have definitely broken in the landscape mode. Priorities and content hugging compression resistance. Priority levels. Even if a developer, for say example, mistakenly give multiple constraints to a particular UI, then Xcode or an auto layout will automatically prioritize the important constraint and will not break the app. In case of auto layout, by setting priorities, you control which constraints take precedence in case of layout conflicts, ensuring essential UI elements remain intact. So if we don't use auto layout, then definitely in different screen size, it will clash when it comes to conflicting constraints. Content hugging. When it comes to image expansion or other even view expansion, that time content hugging comes into place. It is useful for maintaining appropriate spacing around labels or icons. Compression and resistance. Compression resistance prevents shrinking of elements. This is valuable for preventing text from becoming too small to read or buttons from getting overly compressed. This is mostly important for text. Sometimes if we don't set constraints properly, then in smaller devices, maybe the text can overlap, and even the buttons can maybe may take different constraint, or maybe width and height may change in a smaller device than what you have actually designed for. So in auto layout, it automatically takes care of these things. Stack views and auto layout. There are stack views in iOS which helps us to align the elements one below the other or side by side, so that we don't have to manually align them. There are different types of stack view, horizontal and vertical stack views. Stack views automatically handle the alignment of the different elements which are inside a particular stack view, and and given the constraint, they combiningly handle the UI of the app. Dynamic content arrangement. UI stack view adjusts the position and size of its subview based on the content, simplifying the responsive design and reducing the need for manual adjustment. Adaptive layout and size classes. When it comes to auto layout and adaptive layout, size classes is one very important factor which a developer needs to implement in mobile development. So size classes are basically nothing but different constraints based on different screen sizes for a portrait and landscape mode. So there are regular and compact size classes. Each and every device along with its orientation has different size classes. So every time a particular element is designed for a particular orientation or size class, a screen, developer has to consider which, keep in mind which size class they have to give for which is the example of what I refer as a developer while constraints to a particular screen size. So small phones have compact width and compact height, and depending on the different mobile screens and iPad screens, they have different uh, screen sizes. So every time we have to consider this combination, and in interface builder, we get that option to set which size class we have to set for a particular element, and it will automatically adjust it accordingly, and the UI will not break irrespective of which screen you are using. So here is an example of an element which has constraints. This is in iPhone, and the same app is then run on the iPad. When I have given 10 constraints for all the sides, meaning leading constraint, trailing constraint, top and left. So when I open the same thing in a tab, that time it maintains the constraints and does not break the UI. This is a simple example. So here in this example, I have said I have not set any constraint for the this particular element. So when I open the same thing in that iPad, so that time it breaks the UI and does not set constraints according, meaning how it is supposed to happen. So this is a simple example. Just imagine what will happen if the UI is like has multiple elements and complex. It will totally break the adaptive layout and size classes. So while developing the app, we need to keep in mind simple things like UI hierarchy should be maintained, and should be in such a way that it can be managed in the future, and a developer is where any developer in the future also can uh, easily manage the elements in case of fixes. Content priorities. It is very important to use content priorities as as I said previously, when it comes to conflicts and all, it will definitely consider the prioritize the important constraints, and testing on devices. Regularly we should test on devices. Most of the time it happens is what happens is when we test on simulators and when we test on phones, sometimes it gives different results. So regularly we should make sure when it comes to UI, definitely the app is tested on the app before going on. In the conclusion, I would like to say that yeah, it is very important as a developer to go ahead with auto layout, to learn about auto layout thoroughly and practice it, because if we give constraints and UI manually or statically, then it is a very bad practice. And as we all know, in web development also it is same thing. A website should also be responsive in all the devices. Same way, the app should also be responsive in all the small and big devices.